What is up, gamers? It is time, you already know, for Narcissu. Episode number 8, the final episode of game number 1. Slowly, the setting sun dyed everything orange. A deserted beach, a strong cold wind swaying in the pine grove. Or swaying a pine grove. Driving the car onto that beach, I turned the driver's seat over to the girl. Alright, the clutch. Can your feet reach it? It's fine. Okay, then next, shift the gear from neutral to second. I know. Hey, fine, do what you want. Alright. The girl with her short... I know, is like the Japanese, colloquial, yes, I know, but since they couldn't be bothered to fucking translate that, then I'm gonna read it just like a grunt. The girl with her short build stretched her foot out as far as she could while gripping the wheel with a serious expression. Leaning out of the passenger seat, I spoke up. That's great. After that, slowly release the clutch. And then, looking obviously nervous. Wah! As expected, the grinding noise was phenomenal. Look, you need to disengage the clutch more quietly. Her words said so, but of course it wasn't something one got skillful at right away. The girl tried her best, chewing on her lip a bit in concentration. Exactly because she would normally show no emotion, her figure seemed charming to me. Hey, I'm about to start feeling sick. I know. With the muffler slightly broken, the silver coupe was noisy. On the deserted beach, it was as if a howling voice was reverberating. When the sunset had changed into the night sky, and the faltering sea breeze completely changed to being a land breeze, at some point, the face of a large moon hung in the sky. For the most part, it seems you've gotten used to it. Along with that reply, she even shifted into third. Totally used to the clutch now, she was driving around the narrow beach. If that's the case, you could get a license without going to the training center, no? Really? Well, I don't have much credibility. It's the words of someone who just got her license after all. By now, there was no meaning for us to get a license. Both of us knew that. We had maps, we had medicine, the muffler was a bit broken and loud, but we even had a silver coupe. We had no time, had no future. It was exactly because we knew that I felt it was all the more trying. Well then, instead I'll give you mine. As I spoke, I took my own license from my pocket. This was originally the license that had lost its debut. To me, the proof of the ordinary world that I should have already lost. Here, in place of your diploma. Even if I take it, it doesn't look like I'd have time to use it. Well, don't hold back, I'm more or less the same way after all. The 7th floor that no one had ever escaped. The high ceiling windows that could open only 15 centimeters. The white vinyl bracelets. Were the third time as the last, the girl on her second. I on my first. So here, congratulations on graduating. Thank you. With a small nod, the girl accepted my license. With that, she was also licensed. Not only coupes, but sedans, even convertibles. She should be able to drive anything she liked. Surely she should be able to go to any places she liked. After that, we drove for a bit more. We arrived at our destination, the place where daffodils could be seen. It was supposed to be a tourist spot, but perhaps this was a bit away from the area, or perhaps it was night, no one was in sight. Within the perfect darkness of night, we were waiting for the dawn in the dim car interior. Say, you're not going to turn on the light? Ah, the battery seems about dead. Oh, that's right. Inside the car, even with the engines off, only the dim light from the dashboard faintly illuminated our profiles. In the tight space of the car, where sound and light faded away, we exchanged very few words as we waited for sunrise. In the lumps of laundry that had been tossed to the rear seat, the thick jeans and sweatshirts and towels, we took a number of those and wrapped them around our bodies in place of blankets. Aren't you cold? Well, you can come a little closer, you know. Look, don't hold back, come here. Speaking to the girl shivering from the cold in the passenger seat, I pointed to my lap. I'm sure that it'd be warmer here. Not particularly, I'm fine. As the girl spoke, her body was shivering. Even inside the car, our breaths misted. It was obvious she was putting on a brave face. Or is it that you're cold, so you want me to come? Well, that's fine too. Then, alright. And slowly she came over to my side, hesitatingly curled at my lap. Well, it's a bit warmer, isn't it? The windshield was fogged totally white from the cold outside. With that white and dark outside, nothing could be seen outside. But soon the sun would rise. Surely at that time, a field of white flowers would spread out. The night was quickly fading, and the rising sun was turning the darkness from a faint purple to a pale white. Then, with the dawn, white flowers spread before our eyes. In the place that had been only black up until now, white flowers appeared. The two of us couldn't help but get out of the car and gaze at the scene. Amazing. Spread before us, countless daffodils. The morning dew caught the morning sun, further enhancing the bright whiteness of the prominent flowers. One could believe that it was a carpet that stretched to the sea. And in that, we exchanged words, our breaths shining the same white. Since that day the boring television showed us the flowers, we had come to this place. Even though we had no purpose, we managed to come all the way here. These flowers, I can think of them as being the same. Even strictly speaking, they're the same. I see, that's good. I didn't know the difference between kinds, but that day the television showed a scene of unbroken uniform beauty. Compared to that, the flowers before our eyes differed in size as well as how they bloomed. But without a doubt, they were here. Beautiful. Indeed. Vague, dull, ordinary, but always cold and merciless to everyone reality. In a world filled with only things that couldn't be seen, a world filled with things where even if you stretched out your hand, you couldn't touch. Right now, something that could definitely be touched was before our eyes. Some fragments of those unseen somethings were scattered about. January 31st, Awajishima. Rain continued to fall from the solid white January sky. Since then, 2 days have passed, and the whole time we were still in this place. We couldn't go. The girl coughed. Hey, are you alright? Probably. Her health had taken a turn for the worse. With her lying stretched out in the passenger seat, we barely moved the car and had remained stopped here. She was taking her medicine, but perhaps they weren't effective. Her bad state of health remained constant. However, we were people from the 7th floor. From her original condition, for a girl who was on her second time to wind up like this wasn't too surprising. Say, do you want to go back? You want to go back? Just a little bit. 7th floor or home? I didn't know. What I had known was that sooner or later this would happen, and of course I myself was not too far from it. However, being able to only watch, unable to do anything, was painful. February 2nd, Awajishima. The rain didn't seem like it wanted to stop and continued falling from the dark night sky. Beyond the windows of the parked car, the shining white daffodils would faintly sway. Say, this is... As I spoke, I pointed at the white flowers beyond the windshield. These were narcissus, weren't they? These daffodils. The word came from Narcissus. Narcissus? That was a word that I remember hearing before. Until now, I thought that it had been a familiar word, but... You mean the Narcissus where Narcissus came from? Originally it was a myth, so there are many tellings. And then the girl started to slowly explain as I wore an admiring expression on my face. The one who was loved by everyone, Narcissus. The nymph Echo was also one of those who loved him. But Echo couldn't say anything but the same words spoken to her. Nothing but the same words. Yes, and so, for Narcissus, unless she got him to say I love you from his own mouth first, Echo could not express her own feelings. In a lonely and sad voice, the girl continued to speak. I felt that her gaze, like before, looking at some place much further away. However, that was absolutely impossible. No matter how much she dreamed, yearned, Echo's wish could never be granted. Finally, she wound up placing a curse on Narcissus. That was the famous falling in love with his own self-image reflected in the pool. And the Narcissus, who continued to gaze at his reflection, eventually was transformed into a beautiful flower. And that's where this flower, the Narcissus, drew its name. When the story came to an end, she lightly took a breath. I had been listening and also felt desolate. Echo, who bore a yearning for something that could never be reached. It felt as if it were just like us now. And then what happened to Echo? She's nowhere. From the moment the curse was cast, she disappeared. Disappeared? Then, wasn't there no meaning behind it? To go so far as to place a curse, but to get nothing from it, in the end it made Narcissus unhappy also. Is something wrong? No, but you're different, aren't you? Eh? Well, before, didn't you ask me? Whether I cursed my own fate, which I couldn't do anything about? Because I had given up. The me whose time had stopped. Numerous seasons, white overcast skies, passed without even the need to exchange words with anyone. When was it that I became alone, I wonder? Even if I closed my eyes, the world didn't disappear. Even if I stopped my ears, the sound of rain wouldn't stop, I knew that. Neither the bikini swimsuit, the emerald sea, nor the happily smiling photo. I didn't really think I was envious. In the world of my closed eyes, even without maps or a car, I could go anywhere. Even if I wasn't being warned by the large scar in my chest, even if this reality were Narcissus and I were Echo, I would never yearn, never curse. Even when I was supposed to have decided that, my heart right now swayed. The time that was supposed to have stopped tried to move. Even though if it did now, very soon it would end. Wounds. The deeper they are, it seems they require a proportionate amount of time to heal. If so, if one had taken a long time slowly letting go, is it too late to recover? Then, what would become of me, someone who had lived 22 years? The girl's coughing grew more severe. Hey, are you alright? Before dawn, stretching my hand out to the passenger side, I stroked her back. Since then, another 2 days had passed and the medicine that had been losing effectiveness had run out. But it was better than doing nothing. Thinking that, I reached for the car keys, planning on going to a pharmacy. Then, as I was about to switch on the ignition, "It's fine." I was stopped by a weak voice. "But at this rate, either way, they don't work anymore." That may be so, but certainly it was like the girl said. Most likely with the same medicine there wouldn't be any effect. But knowing that, it was painful for me to sit still, unable to do anything. Then, well, let's go somewhere else. Somewhere else? Yeah, somewhere other than this lonely place. Okay, let's decide our next destination. Come on, anything will do. Be the navigator again. I was speaking in a bright tone of voice that even I thought was laughable. Facing that profile looking far away, I continued to speak cheerfully, alone. I knew that doing this was useless. At most, how 2 days before the end would turn to 3. Even I knew it was on that level. Come on, say something. There's some place, isn't there? Not particularly. I know, don't you like cars? Do you want to go to the expressway again? Not particularly. Well then, let's go buy some new clothes. You want them, don't you? Not particularly. Not particularly, you. With those final words, once again the girl looked out the window, not looking at the narcissus that spread before her, but like before, looking off somewhere far away. That pouting, embarrassed face she would sometimes show. She wouldn't show it to me anymore. Why are you like that? Always with just not particularly. Just being a bit forward-facing. What's wrong with that? Before I knew it, I raised my voice. For some reason, I was sad. Even though I was supposed to be unable to have any real sense of reality, my heart ached. The interior of the car returned to silence. Outside of the window were the flowers of January, daffodils, narcissus. In the dark before dawn, their whiteness gently swayed. Further than the flowers, much, much further, the girl continued gazing. Only the faint sounds of waves held sway in this place. Looking forward, how could I... Inside the dark car, suddenly she spoke up. To yearn, to be eager, to strive. If someday you would be rewarded, then fine. But when it doesn't come true, what should I do? At that time, to say, oh, it wasn't possible, and laugh? I'm not that strong. The girl who had eyes that always looked far away was looking straight at me from the passenger seat. What could I do? Or what I could do was give up from the start, to not wish for anything, to say of course it was impossible, to look at myself with cold eyes. There was nothing else I could do. For the first time, the girl cried, even though she almost never showed any emotion. Her small shoulders shook and her tears flowed. At that time, if I had tried harder, what was to me my final excuses? I could do nothing other than put them aside, because I knew from the start that it was impossible. Isn't that much allowed? I looked at the dark sky beyond the windshield. The sky before the dawn even showed the face of the moon. I could only hear the occasional sound of waves, the girl's sobbing voice. The girl might feel that she was the same as Echo, unable to return anything but the same words. From herself, she could say nothing, hope for nothing, see nothing, could do nothing but give up. So for this girl, refusing both the 7th floor and home was perhaps her first and last act of defiance. Dog. Absolute chills, bro. Absolute. If this is chapter gets gonna go crazy. The clear sea of January. Cold wind that pierced the skin. Occasionally a strong gust would sway the pine grove, and the sound of waves calmly reverberated. Well, there's nothing other than this. I handed the tower with Shiraishi Construction printed on it. It was what we had used to wipe our bodies down with before. Hey, don't make such a strange face. Alright. Seeming slightly unsatisfied, the girl took the towel. Suddenly saying she wanted a swimsuit, what could I do? In this season, at this place, on top of that, she said she wanted a bikini. Doing what I could, I came out of the car. When I searched was that white towel that had been in the pile of laundry. And then, waiting for a while, in that skirt she liked, with the towel just from before wrapped around her chest, the girl appeared. How is it? Well, even if you ask me that, it's not strange? Well, probably. It's perfectly fine, totally, not strange at all. Alright. The girl then slowly began walking out to the water's edge. Waves gathered and retreated, long hair fluttered in the cold sea breeze. From the sky as if delivering the finishing blow, snow lightly fell. With all that, the girl held her shoes in both hands, happily as if she were splashing around, walking barefoot at the edge of the water. Say, does it look like it? Maybe so-so. In the cold of midwinter, our breaths whitely misted. Then, I took out the camera that I had taken from the car earlier. That cheap-looking disposable camera had only one more shot on it. Here, I'll take pictures of you. I'm sure it'd be more like it that way. As I spoke, I made a show of preparing the camera. Come now, don't be so reserved, okay? The water's edge. The girl seen through the viewfinder. Maybe she was a bit nervous, or perhaps embarrassed. Her face is more complicated than usual. So, could you give me a better pose? But, no buts. Look, there's no magazine model that would stand like a steak. Alright. Even while still seemingly embarrassed, in her own way she tried her best. Shyly putting her hand on her waist, she threw out her free hand out wide. That hand, it stretched out towards the clear winter sky, as if it were about to grasp something, or trying to grab something. Stretched straight towards the sky with the emerald green sea to her back. Well then, one last thing. Smile. Smile for me, Setsumi. What's with that? You're the younger one. Saying that, for the first time, she smiled for me. The girl wearing the skirt she liked, with a white bikini, smiled for the last shot on the disposable camera, smiled with the emerald green sea to her back. It was as if a magazine model were smiling at me. Great, the next, how about a pose with a bit more movement? Happily, like she were having fun, she splashed through the water. The film had already been used up in the camera, but I continued to take shots. Oh, you're getting caught up in this, aren't you? No such thing. Cheerfully we talked, as if making another attack, the snow fell even harder. And in that, through the viewfinder of the camera that had already run out of film, the girl showed a happy face. Even as her small body was thrown about by the wind, she directed her newly recalled smile towards me. Waves crashed rhythmically. Jesus. Well then. It's already that time. With that answer, like before, the girl started walking towards the sea. Ah, that's right, the license. That's fine, take it as a memento. Alright. While nodding, she put it in her pocket. It was a license that I had once handed to her. Really, it was something that should have already lost its debut. That girl took off the white vinyl bracelet wrapped around her wrists and offered it to me. Are you giving this to me? I am. I see. Then I'll take it as a memento myself. In the same way, I accepted the bracelet and placed it in my pocket. Then, once again, the girl began walking towards the sea. Facing her back, I threw out my final words. Hey, can I ask you just one last question? Do you, right now, want me to pull you back? Or instead, you want me to give your back a push? While the waves splashed at her feet, the girl stopped in place. Her back remained facing me after I asked the question. The strong wind turned the crests of the waves into spray that struck her. Before long, she turned around and... which one, I wonder? I don't really know. Saying that just one more time, she smiled for me. While being struck by the spray from the waves, even as tears welled up, she faced me with a smile. Before, those feet had stopped at the water's edge, but this time they didn't stop. That was why I thought that was her answer. Well then, farewell. And so, our journey of 960 kilometers ended. To me, it was 15 days' time. To her, it was the end of a 22-year journey. Not the 7th floor nor home. Of her own free will, she avoided them. In the year 2005, she was one of the estimated 35,000 people who committed suicide. Blood type O, named Setsumi, 22 years old, female, final identification bracelet white. This was everything about the girl, but I knew. In reality, she liked bikini swimsuits, knew more about the roads than a navigation system, and loved cars, even had a license. She was always without expression, and would only rarely face you. But once in a while, she would even make this embarrassed pouting face, the emerald sea to her back. As if dancing happily, like a magazine model, she smiled. And yet, on this cheap disposable camera, only a single picture remained of her smile. But even so, even with just one picture, it was the proof of ourselves that we left behind. That's crazy. That's wild. That's actually nuts. Dog. So was there even a second girl? Or was it just her the whole time? No, it was! It was the two of them! We were playing as a boy this whole time? I didn't know. I thought we were like another little girl. Like we were 22, you know what I mean? That's crazy. So what happened to us? 2005 was Setsumi, those dazzling days, those winter days. Dude, did we live? Did she kill herself and we somehow lived? Is that it? That's it. Is there a separate achievement for beating it voiced? How do I like... I wanna... There you go, achievements. Show me all of them. How do I check them? View my achievements, here we go. Okay, so you have to finish it voiced. Finish it voiced and then unvoiced. And there's a secret achievement? What's the secret achievement? Hold on. Hold on. What is the fucking... Oh, there's an epilogue that's hidden. Oh, okay. You have to get the other achievement. Okay. That's not a big deal. Let me end this for now. Let me exit. Thank you so much for... I was actually nuts. That was crazy. I was crying a bit at the end there. It was sad. Next episode, I'm gonna go ahead and play the second one that apparently is a lot fucking longer. For now, I'm gonna get the fuck up out. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in Narcissu second. Bye bye.